Hello, School Transportation Nation. Tony Corpin here with School Transportation News. Glad you made it to the podcast. It's brought to you by Transfinder, the leader in school bus routing software. And my host, Mr. Ryan Gray. Welcome, sir.
Hello. Thank you for having me once again. It's always a pleasure.
Awesome. So Ryan and I and Taylor were knee deep in clean transportation all last week at the ACT Expo. It was in Long Beach. They had a record-setting attendance. Ryan, what was this? Like over 8,000?
8,500 was what Eric Neandros, the CEO of Gladstein Neandros and Associates, told everybody at the closing session on last Wednesday. So it was pretty amazing.
Lots of people want to know about clean energy and electrification. It definitely took center stage at this conference. So infrastructure companies, bus companies, we even saw a little bit of smattering of school bus. Obviously it is a little heavier on the trucking side, but we go to this show specifically to kind of meet with the manufacturers and see what's new, what's trending. So Ryan, what was your kind of big takeaways from last week?
You know, there were several key phrases uttered throughout the week, partnership being one of them, from the very first opening session when they were reviewing the State of Sustainable Fleets report. And we talked about that last week on the podcast. We have an article up on stnonline.com, as well as all of our coverage from ACT Expo. So check that out. But, that partnership, I heard a lot about actually a new phrase I had not heard of before. We know TCO, total cost of ownership, TOE, total ownership experience. That was what Matthias Karlbaum, the CEO from Navistar, said, kind of when, fleets as well as manufacturers are looking at the fuel going forward. And, you're right. The sexy thing right now, Tony, is battery electric vehicles, a lot of discussion on that. But really what jumped out to me more so than battery, because I kind of expected that, was a lot of talk about what it's going to take to get to the total greenhouse gas emission reductions that we're going to need. It's going to take a village. Essentially. Yes, battery electric from the tailpipe offers, zero emissions today, but there was talk about, hey, we need to look at the entire ecosystem, wheel to well. Conversations we've been having here at STN, I've been having with some folks in the industry, and it was refreshing to see that basically there was a lot of kind of come to Jesus moments of, hey, we need to be doing better, and we need to be looking at everything and how we're identifying the fuels, where we're finding them, how we're refining them, how we're producing them. Fuel cell, maybe not for school bus, but that's certainly emerging as a pathway going forward. Also, renewable diesel. There was quite a bit of talk about that, and I've been saying that for a while. We've done sessions at STN Expo. We have a session on renewables, both renewable propane and diesel, scheduled for July in Reno. We've had articles on it where you look at getting us to where we need to be. Everybody admits that we're not there yet by being able to switch over to electric. Obviously, there's, especially when you're looking at the trucking world, we have hundreds of thousands of vehicles. We know we have nearly 500,000 school buses alone. You add all the different trucking, big rig truck, long haul, delivery, that last mile, shuttles. We have, probably, millions of vehicles out there that we have to address. And we know the costs are prohibitive to just going out and flipping over a fleet. If you have 200 buses, we know here in the school bus industry, you can't just overnight have 200 electric buses tomorrow. First of all, the demand has to really, surpass the government incentives. And everyone was saying this last week that we're still in that ballpark of government incentive really driving EV. So, it's going to take this village. And that was actually what was mentioned in one of the sessions last week. Taylor Hannon has an article on that on STN online.com as well. So, that really stood out to me, but certainly a lot of excitement. Obviously, 8,500 attendees. They set a record. They're expecting 10,000. I mean, they've outgrown the Long Beach Convention Center. They don't have enough hotels. So next May 1st through the 4th, they're moving to Anaheim Convention Center. So, certainly, we saw, Bluebird expand, announce an expansion into the commercial market. This is, years ago, back before you and I were both born, Bluebird had an RV, but, now they're bringing an electric commercial chassis in partnership with the Lightning e-motors for delivery vans and RVs and specialty vehicles. So, Bluebird is becoming not just a school bus manufacturer anymore. So that was certainly turned some heads. Saw some new products coming in the school bus market. And like you said, so much with infrastructure and, when we were recording this, we still hadn't had the official opening of the EPA Clean School Bus Rebate Program, but a lot of folks talking about that as well, and maybe scratching their heads a little bit on some of how that's being portrayed, at least so far, by EPA, and kind of the funding levels and how that money is gonna trickle down, as well as how districts are going to be able to use it. Still, we're waiting for that. And by the time this podcast comes out, hopefully we'll have some more answers on that. But, it was definitely good to get out there and walk the floor, see the products, head into some sessions and get some interesting perspectives from the leading thought leaders in the trucking industry.
Yeah, what really jumped out to me, Ryan, is, my goodness, I saw so many familiar faces that used to work at other companies. So I feel like the deck got shuffled a bit with people that were in the school transportation industry that worked at one company. Now they're at another company, helping these startups get to market a little quicker, to understand the nuance of school transportation. I actually saw quite a few private fleets for Student, National Express, STA, Beacon Mobility. I mean, these are some of the largest fleets in the country, and they've got their heads of EV running around, and they're soaking it up as well. Everyone's drinking from the fire hose with all this new technology. And I mean, we definitely saw some of our more interesting companies like BYD, right? So the Chinese manufacturer that has a new school bus that they're coming into the market. There's a company called Pegasus Bus, which is working with Zeus. And Zeus is a very aggressive, almost military looking chassis. It's really cool, right? It's a badass looking bus, right? At the end of the day, I am really excited to see this thing on the streets. I mean, the kids are going to be excited to ride on something so cool looking.
I know we were really pushing Brian Barrington over there. So a lot of you know the name Brian Barrington. He's been in the school bus industry for decades. And so he's one of the guys heading it up, Pegasus Bus out of Ohio. But yeah, he threw out that term, the BA1, I think is what he was saying it. So, definitely some really cool stuff. And you're right. I think we're so used to in the school transportation industry, we see a lot of people jumping around, and they're with this company for 10 years and hey, now they're over at this company. And now we're starting to see that reach into this electric, as well as, alternative fuel space. Because, certainly there's still a lot of propane out there, more propane. I mean, propane's like probably 25-to-1 ratio, beating electric right now. That's going to start to even out, but it's going to take years. And again, what I heard was, this is going to take some time and we're behind. So we got to get going. I mentioned Matthias Karlbaum from Navistar earlier. He put up an interesting graphic. Now he's from Sweden and comes from Scania, which is formerly in the VW truck and bus. And now it's under this Traton group that is now under Navistar. So he was showing a graphic that, I think there was like 24 countries that have already exceeded what the EPA says here needs to be the GHG emissions levels. So, I mean, we have our work cut out for us, but with that, a lot of optimism too.
Yeah, and I think one of the slides he threw up as well was showing the that road map to electric, and how they're pushing all in and making their bets and saying, hey, this is what we want to do, and not doing anything is not going to be the plan, right? They are moving all in on this. And school bus on his chart represented about an 8-year runway of growth, obviously all subsidized growth through federal programs, grants, state grants, could be private programs. We'll see how that unfolds going forward with other parallel legislation to the Clean School Bus Act. And I think we're really excited to see it, and a lot of private industry is excited to see it. But with that comes a lot of new companies, and there could be a little bit of confusion in the marketplace because there's so many new companies. And, one of the big conversations that I was having a lot was it's kind of upending the traditional purchasing model. It's a much more robust discussion that needs to happen with a lot of stakeholders. You can't just go in with an order sheet and pick out your groceries like you had been. It's not that way. You got to really be mindful of your infrastructure, your building. You need to be talking to your facilities people, because, hey, you can't buy one set of chargers and expect those same chargers are going to work on a different manufacturer's bus. The battery systems can be different. The charging systems can be different. Everybody's got there's DC fast chargers. They talked about these superchargers. Do school buses need those? Probably overkill. But, I think people are also trying to future-proof their fleet and see where is the right place to lean in. So there's just a lot to take in. We do have Green Bus Summit coming up at STN Expo in Reno, July 15th through the 20th. So we will be taking a deep dive and talking a lot about these topics. So if you guys are at all interested in considering going green, EV, propane, CNG, we are going to have all the best manufacturers, top industry experts there for you. Go to stnexpo.com/west and you can get all the details on everything happening. We still have our early bird discount to save $100. So highly recommend you guys come out and absorb all you can during these kind of changing times. Just such an inflection point in the industry, Ryan.
Absolutely. Yep. So speaking of our shows, Tony, we have a special guest lined up, Sam Richter, who's going to be keynoting for us in STN Expo Indianapolis in just a few weeks. Crazy. Can't believe it. I can't wait. He's going to be talking about leadership in the digital age. We want to welcome to the School Transportation Nation podcast stage, Sam Richter, keynote speaker for our upcoming STN Expo Indianapolis. Sam, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, I am super excited to be with you today and really excited to be in Indianapolis. We're going to have a great time.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. So we always seem to be playing the game of 6 degrees of separation of Ross Bernstein. A lot of the folks out there know Ross. He's a good friend of STN and good friend of Sam's. So that's actually how we were introduced. So Sam, again, it's great to have you. Now, tell our audience a little bit about you. Who is Sam Richter? What is your specialty?
Sure. So just like Ross, I'm a Hall of Fame speaker and I travel the globe, give about 100 presentations a year. And my area of expertise is online information, digital intelligence, sales intelligence, digital reputation management, and digital security. And it's really all about what's all of the information that's out there. How are people putting it there? How can you find that information to grow relationships, show other people that you care? And what we're going to be talking a lot about in Indianapolis is how to control what others find on you. Because what others find on you is really having an impact, not only on your personal brand, but even your company brand.
Absolutely. Reputation is such an important thing in this industry, especially.
For sure.
And our attendees, our listeners right now, they're the guardians of that. So certainly, I think there's a couple aspects of reputation here. We have the reputation of the yellow school bus, which is widely recognized as being the safest way for kids to get to and from school, as well as, athletic and educational events. But then, really where you come in is looking at the people. And, so for the folks out there, give them a little bit of taste of, how do they go about protecting their digital reputation?
Sure. So a reputation is really made up of, I guess a digital brand, if you will, is personal brand is made up of two parts. It's your character, which you have 100% control over. And your characters are your values, how you act. Your reputation, you have absolutely no control over, because your reputation is how others perceive you. And, for history, our reputation is determined based on who do we meet, and we have interactions. And if we make an error, we get to explain ourselves. We have nonverbals, how I use my hands, how I use my eyebrows if I'm smiling. We have tone of voice. That's how we've always built our reputation, how others interact with us. But in today's age, especially in the digital age, people are making assumptions. They're really determining who we are, our reputation, without maybe ever even meeting us. What they're doing is they're Googling us. And what's showing up? Well, certainly you might have reviews about the bus service, the bus system. You might have somebody looking at your LinkedIn profile. Guess what? You're going to have people looking at your Facebook profile, your social media posts. We know that parents get a little, let's just say they like to play their own internal Sherlock Holmes, right? And especially as it relates to anybody dealing with their kids, they're going to look them up online. And the question is, who's controlling the message? Now, it's not just social media. It can also be in any digital communication. So, for example, as leaders, we all will get a note where we made a mistake. We all make mistakes, and we send an apology note. Or we put a response to that review online. Doing it the wrong way can have a severely negative impact on your reputation and the company brand.
So how did you get into this? Was there a defining moment in your life, you decided to really explore these concepts?
Yeah, it was really, I've always been a curious person by nature. And when Google came out, I really dove in. There's no Google manual, so I've learned it. And I suppose I'm one of the world's top experts on how to find information using Google and other tools. Now, the flip side of this, the digital reputation side, is actually two components that came together almost at the same time. So I was in public relations for a very large firm, and some of my clients were people like Coca-Cola and Microsoft, and was doing a lot of reputation management with them, crisis management, all those sorts of things. That kind of coincided with me searching for information on Google. So, hey, wait a second, look at all the things that other people are putting out there, and we're letting other people control the message. Well, that all also came about around the same time I was writing a book. I wrote a book and it became a bestseller. And now I self-published my book. So when I self-published, I thought, I'll order 10,000 copies of the book and I'll store it in a closet somewhere. Until the semi-truck backed up into my driveway and unloaded 10,000 books in my garage in the middle of winter in Minnesota. Needless to say, now that my wife's car is sitting on the street, not in the garage, the heated garage, she was not happy with me. So I had a huge incentive to sell a lot of books. So what does that have to do with what we're talking about? Well, I went in and I Googled my own name, Sam Richter, and I showed up on the first page, sometimes number 1, sometimes number 10, but I was usually there. But I was also there with the professional hockey player, the minor league baseball player, the guy who sells vinyl blinds, the dentist. And so I had a need to get rid of a lot of books. So I just started doing a lot of things online and getting my name out there. Now, I'd love to tell you I'm some online internet marketing guru. That's not true. I just tried a bunch of things and it worked. Like if you Google my name now, you're not going to find those other Sam Richters. Like if your last name is Richter, don't name your kid Sam because you'll never find them online. Or maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But I thought to myself, I didn't spend any money doing it. And if I did it, could other people do it? And the answer is yes. And so those three things kind of came together about the same time. And that's what I'm really excited to share with everybody in Indianapolis is you don't have to be a technical computer guru. You don't have to have any money. Almost everything I'm going to share with you is free to do. And the good news is you can do it, you can control it, and you can really grab a hold and control that digital, the online information found on you, which helps us control our reputation.
So what do you tell the folks maybe a little bit older, maybe not as tech savvy,
sure, who
say, you know what, I don't care about what people are saying about me. I don't care about my digital reputation.
Yeah. How
do you approach those folks? Because there's I figure there's a lot of folks like that in this industry. It tends to age a little bit older. With that said, I know that there's tons of those folks are on Facebook, but still, they're maybe thinking, well, I'm using social media to interact, to see my grandkids or,
Yeah.
interact with my family or my friends. What do I don't care what the public is saying about me.
Well, there's really a number of answers to that specific question. So first off, let's just assume that somebody is using social media. What are they putting out there? And one of the big concepts I'll be teaching is really I call it the law of unintended consequences. People put a lot of things online that looked at from their view, it's like, well, why wouldn't I tell people about that? Why wouldn't I tell people about my husband who is overcoming cancer? Why wouldn't I tell people about my political leanings? Heck, why wouldn't I tell people that I'm going to be going out of town for 3 weeks? Well, here's why. You put that information about your husband, is that going to impact? Now, again, what I'm about to say is totally against the law, but let's be honest, it happens. You put something out there about your husband having cancer, all of a sudden, are you going to get that promotion at work? Because why? Well, I need this person to be really the number 2 person, and I'm a little worried if they're going to be worried about what's going on in their home life. I need them totally focused on the business. Again, totally illegal for somebody to do, but as humans, we're going to do that. We put something out there politically, even if it's not politically abrasive, for lack of a better term. But just someone might look at that and say, I just don't align with that individual. I'm going to go in a different direction. So all those sorts of things people are putting out there, and the law of unintended consequences. For example, if you're looking for a job, if you are not associated with the school district, you're an independent bus firm, and the school district's looking to hire bus firms, you are the leader of that organization. What are they learning about you? What's showing up on you? And is that going to impact their willingness to want to do business with you? Because the thing is, there are other choices. People will do business with people who they like, who they trust. And so that's one of the big concepts I'll be teaching is the law of unintended consequences, what we put out there. Now, the second part of your answer is, should we have a digital presence, really, for those who are not technically savvy? And the answer is quite simply, absolutely. Why? Because if you don't, you're allowing others to control the message. And we know from public relations, hey, if we allow others to control the message, human nature is they're going to think the most negative first. But if we control the message, if we get out there, then we can really maybe push some of those negatives down, and people will listen to what we have to say, if that makes sense.
It's a message of being proactive.
Yeah.
Well, certainly looking forward to really diving in with you on site in Indy. For all of you, hope to see you out there. At this point, registration, you have to register on site, but Sam will be there as the rest of the STN team. Sam, you're going to be speaking June 5th, the keynote, and then the day before, June 4th, with our Transportation Director Summit. So looking forward to seeing you.
It's going to be a great time. I'm really looking forward to being with everybody. You mentioned my best friend, Ross Bernstein, at the beginning. Ross raves about all of you at STN and all of the attendees. He said it's going to be the most fun, one of the best programs that I've ever had the honor to keynote. So I'm super excited to be with everybody.
Awesome. Well, we're excited too. Thanks again, Sam. See you soon.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks to Ryan and Sam for that conversation. But before we get to our next guest, have you guys heard of the Transfinder trifecta? That's Route Finder Plus, Stop Finder, Wayfinder, 3 solutions that work seamlessly together. Just look at everything it includes: routing software, parent app, driver app, inventory management solution, location intelligence, the most accurate maps on the planet. That's because Transfinder has an all-in-one solution for you, for your school transportation department. You guys should give them a call, 800-373-3609, to see how Transfinder can help you. They've built their solution around what their clients need and want, and sometimes never knew they even wanted. Get with them. Email them at getplus@transfinder.com and call them again, 800-373-3609. All right, guys, super excited to bring on our next guest here. We have Kevin Smith from First Light Safety Products. He's the president there. They've got some really innovative visual products that have kind of hit the market. They've disrupted kind of the norms in school transportation, and want to welcome him to the podcast. Welcome to School Transportation Nation, Kev.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate you inviting us.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about safety, right? So your company has stop arm illumination products as well as school bus sign illumination. And, it really brings a lot of visual awareness to the school bus, especially in low light situations. And, a lot of school districts have taken notice, and you're acquiring more school district customers and more dealers. And, can you talk a little bit about kind of the company and the safety elements and what it's doing to kind of change the market a little bit in that aspect?
Yeah, I think when we first came up with the idea to illuminate a school bus sign in the manner that we are and create something that gives a school bus a very unique identifier and allows it to be seen from the furthest distance possible, it was important that we came to market with a very high quality product that took into account inputs from the school transportation industry. So we actively sought the opinions of mechanics, talked to some of the OEMs, try to understand some of their biggest challenges, and incorporated those challenges into our design. So not just rolling out a product that made the buses more visible, allowed them to be visible, as I said, from the furthest distance possible, but also solving some of the issues that conventional technology of the day, when those products were introduced, left that needed to be corrected in the market at some point. From a company development standpoint, it really was the school bus sign that turned into the stop arm. Once we had the school bus sign developed, we realized that deploying that same technology into a stop arm would offer a greater benefit over existing stop arms. Now, for existing stop arms, I think they're an excellent tool on school buses. The product that has had in the marketplace for years and years, I have no doubt that they saved countless lives by having those products on school buses. But what's happening now is you have a lot more dangers on the road. You have more distracted drivers. And when we looked at what these products can do, we drew a parallel to police cars and other emergency vehicles. We looked at how police cars have gone through an evolution over the last 20 years, not just changing conventional lighting to LED, but adding lighting wherever possible, all in the sake of making police cars and ambulances more visible to oncoming traffic. It occurred to us that that same idea hadn't been applied to school bus. And the argument that we have is that if you have a vehicle that's transporting millions of kids every day and they're responsible for bringing kids to school and delivering them home after school, shouldn't it be one of the most visible modes of transportation? Shouldn't it be visible to oncoming motorists? Shouldn't it have the same kind of features and benefits as a police car would? I mean, we would argue that a police car going to the scene of a crime, what's more important, transporting kids that are on the bus going to or from school, or trying to catch a criminal? I think a bus carrying kids, making sure they're safe, making sure they grow up, making sure that they're in a position to be part of society and not having their lives taken from them at a young age, which the statistic that we're aware of is over 100 children lose their lives because of school bus related accidents every year. So when you have distracted drivers and you have an uptick of accidents, and 25% of all accidents on the roads are caused by distracted drivers. Now that's certainly incorporating cell phones. That's also infotainment systems inside of cars. I'm sure you've all seen people putting on makeup or even reading a book, or even people that are on autopilot, and I heard a stat the other day that told us that the majority of accidents and the majority of tickets that drivers get occur within 5 miles from their home because they're so used to their surroundings. They become so comfortable within that close proximity to their homes, they're not paying close attention. Well, if they're going home, it stands to reason that there are going to be school buses picking up and dropping off kids within that same kind of area. And it's important to bring what we call the same level of respect to a school bus as what police cars and ambulances have had for a number of years.
Let's talk about the actual product itself in terms of the luminosity of it, right? Like what people visually see and how it impacts behavior. So can you talk a little bit about what the standard is that's been for the last, 50 years or longer? And now what are you doing and how is that product kind of changing behavior at the driver level?
Yeah, Tony, that's an excellent question, and that's one of the things that we're fighting against. The standard based on the national standards is a decal. And decals have been excellent technology. The limitation, though, with the decal is it activates once the headlights of an oncoming vehicle hit it, and it reflects light back to that vehicle. Now, if those headlights are too low in relation to the bus, or if they're too far away, then that decal doesn't activate. So with our school bus sign, the purpose is for that bus to be noticed from a very far distance. I'll use an example. One of the schools that, Tony, I know you're quite familiar with, Dr. Kane with Cypress Fairbanks, we tested one of our school bus signs on his bus. And I'm told that he saw that bus on the way to work or on the way home one day before he made any commitments to retrofit his buses. He was somewhat unconvinced. A school that size is approached all the time with new technology. Once he had a chance to see the bus from a far distance and notice the bus from miles away, he recognized the importance of having that product on the bus. So what we've done is we've combined that standard reflectivity that is the national standard with our level of illumination. And what that does is those two technologies combined ensures that the school bus is visible no matter the conditions. And in our minds, a decal or a stop arm that only is activated once the headlights of an oncoming car hit it at the right angle, at the right distance, it's not enough. More time is more safety. More time is more time for a driver to react. More time is less chance for a life-changing situation from occurring. And that's what we're trying to do. Our products are intended to reduce the possibility of a life-changing event for that child, their family, and all the other families that are taken up in that collateral by an incident occurring. And that reflectivity, that decal, Tony, that is applicable to both the school bus signs, the word school bus on the front and back of the school buses, and the stop arms. And where stop arms have been effective, and again, I take nothing away from the conventional manufacturers. It is a good product. It has saved countless lives, but it is limited based off of the oncoming motorist headlights hitting that stop sign. And if you look at, in your driver's manual, when you took your driver's test, Tony, I think you're probably around my age. So, you're probably 25 years from taking a road test and reading that book. There's one page where I'm from. There's one page that speaks about school buses. There's one page about, what those red flashing lights on a school bus means. And red flashing lights, when you have, countless people, one of the great things about the US and Canada are the immigration policies. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of people coming in from other countries to make their lives here. There's different laws that are applicable. They're programmed to act differently around different vehicles. So you have all these factors, and we're relying on two red flashing lights on a stop sign to prevent a car from passing the school bus. In our opinion, it's not enough. The stop arm needs to be clearly a very visible stop sign on the side of the bus. It's got to be irrefutable that is a stop sign. And it doesn't matter where you're from, what country you're born in, what language that you read, write, and speak, a red octagon with a white border with white lettering in the center, that's a stop sign. It's a stop sign in every country I've been in. So when you look at that, a stop sign, always looking like a stop sign on the side of a bus, we think it gives motorists the most amount of time to notice the bus and react. And that is, we're very encouraged as well because the results we're getting back from schools utilizing our products is actually beyond our expectations.
Excellent. And I know the NASDIP's illegal passing study is ongoing this month, and it's millions upon millions of illegal passes. And I'm sure, it's important for us to talk about these topics simply because it raises awareness. But I mean, you touched on it. There's just potentially a lack of driver awareness of the rules of the road around school buses. But the universal language of that stop sign is what it is, right? It is universal, and it provides a warning, and if people heed that warning or not, could cost a life. So it's very powerful. Recently, I saw on your social media feed that you guys participated, or you yourself gave a presentation in New York on Operation Safe Stop. Do you want to talk a little bit about that experience?
Sure. We were fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to sponsor the Safe Stop event in the Capital District in New York. And that was the first event that that district had since COVID. So it's been 2 years since all those folks came together. And they had 2 school buses at that event that were outfitted with our school bus signs and our stop arms. I was given the chance to speak for 10, 15 minutes. And what I told the audience was simply relay the statistics that had been communicated back to us from various schools using our product. And that is that we see a reduction of up to 85% in stop arm violations as a result of schools deploying our stop arms on their buses. Now, that's a great number. What I also look at is we've done some surveys, we've done some polls, and I introduced this information to that audience as well, is that school bus drivers are reporting that oncoming motorists are stopping further back. So they're approaching the school buses slower, they're approaching with more caution, and they're stopping further back from the vehicles. All that is just proof positive that they're recognizing the school bus from a greater distance, they're respecting that school bus, and I would liken that to the same level of a police car and ambulance, and they're just decreasing the risk of a dangerous incident from occurring. What I'd also said to that audience is that, I think where stop arms have failed the market is that they've become a commodity. They've become a low-cost product that is bolted on the side of the school bus. And, something that we rely on to stop drivers from passing a school bus when it's stopped should not be a commodity. It should not be a basic piece of equipment. It should be an area where there's investment. It should be the best line of defense for making drivers stop. Now, there's excellent technology being released, but we're focused on stopping drivers. If drivers are more distracted as they approach school buses, think about the kids getting off school buses. I have 2 kids. And when they're sitting at the kitchen table and I'm trying to get their attention, they're distracted. I got to call their names multiple times before they make eye contact with me. So you have kids getting off buses and they have handheld devices. They have earphones in their ears. They're talking to their friends. They're distracted. I don't think technology that relies on alerting the kids, albeit excellent, a great step in the direction of safety, it's got to be proactive. It's got to be on the drivers. It's got to be, stopping them, as I said many times, from a very far distance. Stopping them when the possibility of a life-changing event is high, it can create a better outcome, but the chances of something happening are higher. What I mean by that is less time to react, less options for safety.
Yeah, it's just very powerful, I think, and it's an important conversation to have about the realities of, like I said, I have 2 young children myself, and I know I feel you on the distracted thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that is real, and they've got their devices and they're distracted, and I think we see that as more and more technology finds its way into the school bus, and students do have those handheld devices, phones, iPhones, all the things that can create distraction. So yeah, it's quite an interesting predicament when you're dealing with trying to save lives, and we see more loading and unloading zone fatalities happening, and I know we're trying to stay at 0, and the industry prides itself on that, but there are unfortunate accidents, and the halo effect, as you mentioned, it has implications and devastating effects on families and children. So it's very powerful. Kevin, where can people find out more about First Light Safety products?
Anybody interested in learning more about our products, I would encourage them to go on our website, firstlightsafety.com. We also have well over 100 authorized distributors across the U.S. now. There's hundreds of schools that are using our technology, and certainly on social media, sites like STN that have participated in helping us share our message. Any of our partners like that has information on our products.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on, sharing a few minutes with us today. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate the invite.
A special thanks to Kevin, Sam, Ryan joining us on this episode. Also, special shout out to our sponsor, Transfinder. We appreciate them. They're riding with us every week with the School Transportation Nation. Visit stnonline.com for everything happening in the school transportation industry. Also, don't forget to register. STN Expo is coming up this summer. We have Indianapolis. You can register on site in Indiana with us because online registration is already closed. That's June 3rd through the 7th. But STN Expo Reno plus the Green Bus Summit, that is July 15th through the 20th. Go to stnexpo.com for all the details. Guys, don't forget, share the podcast. Get it out in your community through socials. We want to get the word about everything we're talking about in the industry to help you guys kind of elevate the conversation, to help you make your departments better, keep kids safer. We're a mission-driven organization, and we love you and appreciate you. We'll see you next week, Nation.